teachers' classroom effectiveness, on students' self-concept and academic achievement in secondary schools in Kenya. I'll go to the background of the study. Teaching is the classroom interaction during which there is purposefulness interaction between the teacher, the learner, the subject matter, and the material. That is according to Ocon, 2006. Internationally, we find that several studies have pointed to the differences between schools regarding organizational characteristics that influence the school's ethos. Studies confined to Swedish condition have shown those teachers' perception of their work environment in terms of workload, reward, and values differs substantially across schools. In India, Alami study conducted a study and found out that poor academic performance among Omani students was related to 4 macro categories, such as the student-related factors, teachers-related factors, family, and others, respectively. In Nigeria, Ibrahim of Lagos Metropolis also demonstrated the study on students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on their self-concept, and the study concluded that there was a significant difference between the student perception of their teachers' effectiveness and self-concept. In Kenya, there was a study done in Keio North by Kimtai and Okolo, which revealed a significant relationship between students' perception on teachers' effectiveness, achievement goals, learning strategies, and academic performance that could be researched in that area, that is Keio North Sub-County. It is against this background that helped the current study to predict student perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on student self-concept and academic achievement of students. I'll go to the statement of the problem, and whereby in order to demonstrate teacher effectiveness as concerned to students' academics, it is an issue in schools. And when I looked at the KCC statistics on the year 2018 to 2021, there was a potentials of the presence of this poor academic achievement, which are rated at the grade of D. And there should be efforts to improve this academic achievement in the sub-county. Therefore, these efforts should be concerned to focus on the teachers' effectiveness. Students' perceptions are acknowledged risks to teachers' effectiveness, thus may affect the academic achievement and self-concept of the students. Therefore, teachers' classroom effectiveness is an important factor in affecting students' perception, self-concept, and academic achievement in Hamisi. And also there is need to look at the gender difference, which is evident in general academic achievement. And the attainment of gender equity requires focus on the gender intervention. Therefore, students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and gender orientation are postulated risk factors to academic achievement and self-concept of students. The students' perception, therefore, perhaps should have not been used to evaluate teachers' effectiveness in students' academic achievement and self-concept in Hamisi sub-county. So this study was conducted in order to fill this gap. The objectives of the study, the first objective was to examine the students' perception of teacher classroom effectiveness on students' academic achievement in secondary schools in Hamisi sub-county. The second one was to find out the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on students' self-concept among secondary schools in Hamisi sub-county. The third one was to examine the relationship between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and self-concept on students' academic achievement. And the last objective was to establish gender differences in the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on students' academic achievement in Hamisi Sub-County, Kenya. And the research was also guided by the research hypotheses, which were 4 of them. The first one is that there is no significant association between the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' academic achievement. The second one is there is no significant association between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' academic achievement. The third one is there is no significant influence of students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and self-concept on academic achievement. And the last one is there is no significant gender differences between the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on academic achievement among schools in Hamisi Sub-County, Kenya. The study was anchored on attribution theory, which is concerned with how individuals interpret events and how this relates to their thinking and behavior. Here, we find that how the students is concerned with how the individual envision their success or failure on their behavior or the behavior on others. In this case, the theory was used to find out if the students envision their success or failure to their teachers' effectiveness in their classes, basing on their which may affect how the students perceive those teachers and how it will affect the academic achievement and the self-concept of the students in that area, which is Hamisi Sub-County. And also the study was anchored on a conceptual framework whereby the independent variable were the student perception and the teacher's classroom effectiveness. The dependent variables were the students' academic achievement and the self-concept, and it was intervened by intervening variables, which is the classroom environment, nature of the school, type and category, and the teacher and students. And also, the literature of the study was based on the objectives. So I'll go to the research methodology, whereby the study used mixed method research design, since mixed method research design combines both quantitative and qualitative data. So it was the best approach to use in this study. And the study area was Hamisi Sub-County Secondary School, which is found in Vihiga County. The target population of the study is the target population is 4,848, whereby the students were 4,738 and the teachers were 110 and the schools were 52. Under the sample size, the research used sample size based on Craig's and Morgan's table of determining sample size, and a population of 4,000 to 6,000 gives a sample size of 357. So the sample size in this study was 357 participants. And also, according to Kalinga 2004, an ideal sample should be between 10% and 30% of the target population. So on the schools, I used the 30%, which gave to 16 schools. So my sample size was 16 schools. In each school, there was one teacher was sampled out. That became 16 teachers, and the students were 341, making the sample size to be 357. Under the sampling technique, the study employed purposive sampling, stratified random sampling, and simple random sampling. Purposive
Forget about those things out there. It doesn't make you less or If you are a man, a man. If you are a woman, you are a woman. Whether they call you the woman or the man, you are still there.
And it
You
was
are
done
still a woman or a
in a
man.
purpose in mind, where the researcher chooses the sample based on who will adequately answer the research objectives. And in this study, it was employed to select from 3 principal class teachers. And this stratified sampling design was also used, and it is generally applied in order to obtain a representation sample. If a population from a sample is drawn does not constitute a homogeneous group, the population is divided into 2 or more distinct groups called stratas, and from the stratum, a sample is constituted. So in this
wanafunzi wako,
study,
nilikwambia nilisikia tu uligraduatisha watu washo tukose.
stratified random
Sijui
sampling
ni wangapi,
helped to
hata ni
select
wakina nani.
participants and school basing on their gender and the school category. The study also used simple random sampling,
At least kwa building na
whereby
nini
the
naweza I
method
can
of
account
sample
because I'm
selection,
the
which
one in
gives
charge of
each
the data.
possible sample combination equal probability of being picked, and each item in the entire population to have an equal chance of
Model
being
yenye
included
tunatumia
in the
KCB ndio
sample.
tutatumia kwa hiyo.
And here random
Model.
number generators were
You,
used
whatever,
to
if you are
select
doing the
schools
interviews,
from
you
the
just do.
sample
But when they
size
come, they
and
must
the required number of Form 3 students
report
in each
officially
school
as students.
visited.
To
Under the
the normal process
instrumentation,
of admission, yes.
the questionnaires
Then
were
now
administered to the Form
monthly
3
data,
students. The
get
interview
your
schedule
attendance sheet
was
per
given
week.
to the Form 3
I will be
class teachers,
demanding
that is
from
the
you
principal
attendance
class
sheet
teachers,
per week
and it was done
from
face
those
to
guys who are
face.
training.
And the document
Mwanafunzi
analysis
anasign
guide
attendance.
provided information which included enrollment of Form 3
Eh.
students, which were both boys and girls, and academic performance from the end of term exams.
Yeah.
The pilot study was conducted in the purpose of testing the validity and reliability of the research instruments. And the schools which were selected were not included in the final study. The pilot study applied to Form 4.
It was not an oversight. It was rebellion.
4 schools in
Use the words.
which in each school 2 Form 3 students and 1 Form 3 class teacher was included in the pilot study. And also validity of the research instrument was
I
also
kept quiet.
that
I kept quiet.
to choose the content and construct validity of the instrument in order to establish was established by consulting the
Si waliendelea
experts in
tu
the relevant
wakamaliza.
areas. Split under the
I
reliability of the
usually fail.
research instrument, split half test was used to ascertain the reliability of the research instrument, which is a method preferred since the test was divided into 2 sections, which were checked against each other, and the results were correlated, and the correlation coefficient above 0.7 was deemed reliable. The items were run on
Departments
Crunchbase
were directly,
alpha
but
to
the
ascertain
random,
the
yes.
reliability coefficient. In this case, the reliability was
My brother,
established at
my good brother Magichu,
0.69
just
equivalent to 0.7
I'm sure you know
as
Malita.
the set coefficient for reliability in order to decide if the scale was reliable.
Si unaona hata kama hii
On the
pesa
data
ya
analysis,
hii ya KCB.
the data was coded
You are the
and it
enterprise
was
manager. There's no way I
analyzed
can make a budget
using
without recognizing
the objectives.
So kipato tu.
And on the first
Enterprise
objective,
manager, taka
the simple linear regression
haina
was used. On the second objective, simple also used the simple linear regression. On the third objective, also used the multiple regression, and the fourth objective, the t-test was used. I'll go to the research findings, and on the research findings, we are looking at the data presentation, interpretation, and discussion of the findings. And it was done also using the objectives and the hypothesis. So on the first hypothesis, we find that it was testing on the association between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' academic achievement. That is in Amisi sub-county. Kenya. The R value and that the simple linear regression was used. So the R value represents the simple correlation, and it was 0.696, which indicates a high degree of correlation. The R square value indicates how much of the total variation in the independent variable student academic performance can be explained by the independent variable student perception of teachers' effectiveness. In this case, 48.4% was explained, and it was found to be moderate. The adjustable R square indicated that 43% of the variance in academic achievement was explained by students' perception. To establish the extent of relationship between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' academic achievement, analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, revealed that the F, that is the degree of freedom, was 1 to 259, the R was 24.8, and the p-value was 0.05. Regression model on students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness statistically significant predicts students' academic achievement, which implied a change in predictor influence change in the outcome variable. The coefficient is statistically significant, which the beta was 0.295, the t was a negative 4.980, and the p-value was 0.05. The result revealed that students' perception of teacher effectiveness significantly influenced learners' academic achievement. The influence of student perception of teacher effectiveness on academic achievement had a positive standardized beta coefficient, which was 0.696. This indicated that a unit change in student perception of teachers' effectiveness was likely to result to an increase in students' academic achievement by 6.96%. Thus, the null hypothesis was rejected. The results of the simple linear regression analysis indicated that student perception of teacher effectiveness significantly influenced students' academic achievement. So when students' perception of their teachers' effectiveness, e.g. the personality, subject matter expertise, are positively communicated by the teachers, majority of the students in Hamisi sub-county realize academic achievement, and also the reverse may be true. And the result concur with Beck, who investigated teacher effectiveness and student achievement. On the second hypothesis, it tested on the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on student self-concept. And also a simple linear regression was also completed to test the null hypothesis. And that there is the table. So the study findings revealed that the correlation coefficient was R, which was 0.296, with a p-value of 0.05 being statistically significant. The R square value indicated how much of the total variation in the dependent variable student self-concept can be explained by the independent variable student perception of teachers' effectiveness. In this case, 87% can be explained, which is relatively good. The adjusted R square indicated that 84% of the variance in self-concept was explained by students' perception. This led to rejecting the null hypothesis, which had stated that there is no significant association between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' self-concept among secondary schools in Hamisi sub-county. To establish the extent of relationship between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' self-concept, analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, through simple regression analysis was performed. And the study findings indicated the degree of
There's a time
freedom
my
to
brother-in-law
be
was disturbing my
1 to
sister.
259, the
I
R
told him, mimi ni mtiriki
24.8,
mwenye
and the
nimeokoka.
p-value 0.05 regression model on students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness
They
statistically
believe, no,
significantly
they just think that they are
predicts
witch
student
doctors, but they are not.
self-concept.
They are
This
witches,
implies
but
a
they are not.
change in predictor influence change
So
in the
that
outcome variable.
guy
The
aliwacha
coefficient
kuchezea my sister
was
mpaka sasa.
statistically significant with a beta of negative 0.296. The t-value was negative 4.980 and p-value 0.05. The result revealed that students' perception of teacher effectiveness significantly influenced students' self-concept. The influence of student perception of teacher effectiveness on self-concept had a positive standardized beta coefficient, which was 0.696. This indicates that a unit change in
We
the
are
student
done.
perception of teacher effectiveness was likely to result to an increase in students' academic achievement by 2.96%. Thus, the null
Products.
hypothesis was rejected. The results of the simple linear regression analysis indicated that student perception of teacher effectiveness significantly
Taking tea
influenced
so
students'
that we enjoy the product.
self-concept. So when the student perception
You
of the
mean? I thought
teacher's effectiveness are
we are the
positively
we are
communicated
the
by
A
the
class. We
teachers,
are
the
the A group.
majority of the students realized the self-concept to be
Sure.
the
No, now
reversed
that you have told us,
truth, and
you give us another
and
2
this
hours.
concurs with the
We will have recovered
and
and
then
gone by.
on my third
Passed by.
objective, that was the relationship between students' perception, teachers' classroom effectiveness, student self-concept, and students' academic achievement. Here, I used multiple regression, which was run on an alpha of 0.05 level of significance to test the null hypothesis. Here, the R, which was 0.730, indicates a strong relationship, which suggests that the model is a relatively good predictor of the outcome. The variation in the outcome variable, that is academic achievement, explained by the predictor variable, that is a student's perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and self-concept, is the R squared 0.533, that is 53.3%. To report whether or not the student's perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and self-concept were significant predictors of outcome variable, and the outcome variable was students' academic achievement, was determined using the results of the ANOVA. The B-values compare the strength, that is the beta values, compare the strength of the relationship of each of the independent variable to the dependent variable. The B-values shows academic achievement score, that is 17.89. When you add it to the B1, that is 0.529, that is student perception. B2 is 0.589, that is the teacher's classroom effectiveness. And the B3 was 0.430, that is the self-concept. This suggested that as students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness increased by 1 unit, academic achievement score increases by 0.529 units. Whereas as self-concept increased by 1 unit, academic achievement score increases by 0.589 units. Both were almost equal in strength in determining academic achievement. That was 0.529 and 0.589 respectively.
Sasa nimekosa
Overall,
tu za jana.
the results of the multiple regression indicated that the model explained the R squared to be 0.533, that is 53.3% of the variance. In addition, students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and self-concept was significant predictor
I
of
didn't know I was the
academic
last one, bana.
achievement, while student
I was the last
perception
one to be
of
born.
teachers' classroom effectiveness, that is a B 0.529 with a p-value of 0.05, and self-concept was 0.598, also with a p-value of 0.05, contributed significantly to academic achievement in the study. The final predictive model was academic achievement score, which was 17.087 with a B1 0.529, that is student perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness, and the other was 0.589, that was the self-concept. So the study therefore rejected the null hypothesis. And the study agrees with Kimani, Kara, and Jagi. So on my last
wakiandika na copy, wakiandika na copy.
objective, that is gender difference in the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness, and that is it goes on the academic achievement. Here, a t-test of gender difference on the student perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness was used in order to achieve that gender difference of students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on academic achievement. So the independent sample t-test was run to test the null hypothesis, which stated that there is no significant gender difference between the students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on academic achievements. The results of the independent samples t-test indicated a statistically significant difference between the mean score of students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on academic achievement. Then 95% confidence interval of the difference between means range from negative 178 to 2.545. The male students had a statistically significant higher mean score on perception of the teacher's classroom effectiveness. That was 70.83 and 4.660 than the female counterparts, which had 69.64 and that was 6.503. These findings concur with Igbo, Onu, and Obio, who researched on impact of gender stereotype on secondary school students, self-concept, and academic achievement in Nigeria. The study concluded that there is a statistically significant positive association between students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' academic achievement among secondary schools in Hamisi Sub-County, Kenya. Students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness influenced their self-concept, and also concluded that there is a statistically significant positive association between students' perceptions, teachers' classroom effectiveness, self-concept, and the students' academic achievement among secondary schools in Hamisi Sub-County, Kenya. However, the effect of each construct is different, though all the three had statistically significant effect. There is a significant gender difference between the students' perception, teachers' classroom effectiveness, and the academic achievement. The following were the recommendations made from the study. The first recommendation is that it is recommended that students cultivate a positive perception on teachers' classroom effectiveness in order to improve their academic achievement. The second recommendation was that the study recommends that schools should enhance students' perception on teachers' classroom effectiveness since it influences students' self-concept. The study also recommends that schools should enhance students' perception, teachers' classroom effectiveness, self-concept, and students' academic achievement in order to improve the school's mean scores. The study also recommends schools to consider gender difference between the students' perception, the teachers' classroom effectiveness, and academic achievement in order to improve the students' academic achievement. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Shayne, for that good presentation. Another wonderful one on student perception of teacher classroom effectiveness, on their self-concept and academic achievement in secondary schools in Hamisi sub-county. So, Shayne, I don't have a secretariat, so I'll request you to write the comments, just like I told Esther previously. You make sure you have a piece of paper. You write all the comments that you will get and the questions that you'll get from your examiners.
Okay.
And then you will type them with your name and registration number and title, and then email them to me.
Okay.
They'll help me to generate the minutes.
Okay.
So your critical readers were Professor Otieno and Professor Odera. Professor Otieno will send his reports, which I will share with you and send. Professor Odera is here. We'll give him a bit of time to engage you. But before he comes, maybe just a few clarifications. Shayne,
Yes.
student perception on teachers' classroom effectiveness, on their self-concepts. What is this you mean by effectiveness? Teacher classroom effectiveness. Hiyo ni gani?
Teacher classroom effectiveness. It is just
Effectiveness, yes.
it focuses on students' outcomes and the teacher behaviors and the classroom processes that promotes better students' outcome. Those behaviors, those teacher example is those the teachers' personality,
Mhm.
their how they are more they are role models to their students.
Okay. So in your definition of terms, that term effectiveness,
Yes.
it needs to come out very clearly because in your presentation it was not coming out. And when
Okay.
you are presenting your background, I had about the study assessing, the study predicting. Was this study supposed to predict student perception, or it was assessing student perception?
It was supposed to
No, what
the,
it did,
the,
not what it was supposed to. What it did.
what
Ilikuwa
it is.
inaangalia, ilikuwa ina predict ama ilikuwa ina assess? Ama what was it doing? Maybe you can share.
It was predicting.
It was predicting.
Yes.
So you're looking at student perception. So it was predicting students' perception, or it was
No,
measuring the students'
it was
perception?
measuring that
Mhm.
student. It was measuring teachers' classroom effectiveness. How that students' perception.
How the students perceive.
Yeah, how they perceive teachers in their classroom.
Yeah, so your presentation should reflect that. It should reflect that it is measuring the perception now of the students towards their teacher and not predicting the students' perception towards their teacher. And then your statement of the problem was weak. It didn't come out well. You need to explain well what motivated you to conduct this study.
Okay.
The what else? Yeah, the study area. The study area. Again, the why was not being answered. Why did you do it in Hamisi? And then the research design, when you say that you use mixed methods, quantitative and qualitative, that is very general, Shayne.
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
Unaniangusha sana. You're saying that you used mixed methods, quantitative and qualitative. So, we expect you to be more focused, more specific. When you talk about qualitative and quantitative, are you using all the designs in qualitative and quantitative? So
No.
you need to be more specific when you're talking about quantitative and qualitative research designs. Um, I didn't hear about the sample size. First of all, the categories. Who are you sampling? I didn't hear it coming out in your presentation. The sample size, I didn't hear. If it was the students or the teachers or whoever, I didn't hear. I just heard about the sample size of the piloting, but for the study, I didn't hear. I didn't also hear about the instruments of data collection. I've not read your document, but I hope they are there.
Yeah, they are
That
there.
Yeah, that was a big gap that I thought I needed to mention. All right, Prof. Karibu, if you have one or two for the candidates.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Am I
bro.
being
Good
heard?
morning. Good morning.
Okay. Chair, I looked at this work on soft digital platform, which is not very easy. And I've tried to go through it because I even got it late, but I've given my input. The candidate is Shayne Kavere. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
I've got a few issues to put across to you. Number one is the title. The title of your study, the title page, whatever is given on the title page, as well as on the certification page, are not the same. So I don't know exactly what you are studying. Were you studying perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness in their self-concept and academic achievement in secondary schools in Hamisi sub-county, Kenya? That's on certification page. Then the title page is Students' Perception of Teachers' Classroom Effectiveness on Students' Self-Concept and Academic Achievement in Secondary Schools in Kenya. Can you clarify those two titles? They are different in the same document. Work on dedication page. You should know how to use punctuation marks and when to use upper case for the nouns or the names. In the acknowledgement section, you indicated that this list is by no means comprehensive. Which list is this? And is the sentence, is that sentence, I think it's second last sentence, is it necessary? If it doesn't add value, expunge it from your work. Those are about the preliminaries. I'm still moving on with the same. I want to go to the abstracts. Abstract, it needs to be redone. The elements in the abstract should be sequentially presented, and also mind about your grammar in the abstract. I hope you have gotten what I mean by sequentially presented. What comes before what in the abstract? In the abstract, you have indicated that you used questionnaires and interview schedules. How many of such instruments did you actually use? And you should indicate for which category of respondents. In the abstract, the last recommendation should cultivate positive, that students should cultivate positive perception towards teachers' classroom effectiveness and schools, to consider gender differences between students and teachers and academic achievement, My concern is, can these recommendations be attained if the results therein are negative? That's in the abstract. Okay. Now, again, in the abstract, which I feel is very important, though I'd mentioned it in chapter 1, the first objective is misplaced. In the abstract, the first objective, it sounds like a purpose of the study, or general objective, but not specific objective. So, what is the difference between the first objective in the abstract, which again in the first chapter is the same, and the purpose of the study? Differentiate between the two, which of course the purpose, you never gave the purpose in the abstract. You also mentioned about attribution theory. I was wondering, why didn't you indicate the psychologists who championed that theory? You just mentioned attribution theory. Who furthered this theory, in other words? Okay, chapter 1. Chapter 1. Citation should be from global to local perspectives. That is not the case, and it's not very easy to know, in any case, where the studies cited were conducted. You have not mentioned the countries, the cities, or the countries where the studies were conducted. So it's not very easy to really perceive whether a study was carried in America, Australia, or Europe, or in West Africa, or in South Africa, or in Kenya. So you should be very specific by mentioning where the studies were carried out. Page 2. You have started with research has shown that. Then you end up by citing the sources. So it's like research, in other words, you have personified research, which should not be the case. Yet again, you have people who carry out that study. And this runs all through your document. Now, that's background of the study. The last paragraph is very important because it highlights exactly how the Kenyan situation is, and specifically what happens in Hamisi, a sub-county. So this is not well captured. It's not clear. It doesn't come out clearly about what's happening in Hamisi. So please tell us exactly what is happening in Hamisi that motivated you to carry out this study. Give us the historical background in Hamisi. And I would like, you have cited Kimtai and Okole, 2016. What did they really recommend in relation to your study? It's not clear. It's like you using their suggestion. At the same time, you are telling us they have not done anything. So what is their relation? What's the relationship of their study in relation to yours? Statement of the problem. No clear figures and empirical studies or data in relation to Hamisi sub-country that indicates that the problem you are studying is prevalent in Hamisi sub-country. Do you have evidence that students' perceptions perhaps have not been used to evaluate teachers' effectiveness in academic achievement and self-concept in Hamisi? Do you have evidence to support that? Don't just tell us a study has not been done. Where are the figures or statistics or data to show that such a study has not been done? How can you justify that it has not been done? Hypotheses and objectives and hypotheses. I'll not go through them one by one. I've picked on objective 2 and hypothesis 2. They are inconsistent. You should realign them. Objective 2 states that you wanted to find out the students' perceptions of teachers' classroom effectiveness on student self-concept. Am I being heard, Shayne? Shayne, Chair?
I can hear you.
Yes, Prof, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. The second objective is to find out the students' perceptions of teachers' classroom effectiveness on student self-concept, while hypothesis 2 states that there is no significant association between students' perception and teachers' classroom effectiveness and students' academic achievement among secondary schools in Hamisi. One is objective is studying teachers' classroom effectiveness on student self-concept, while the hypothesis studies association between students' perception of teachers and classroom effectiveness and academic achievement. There is no correlation between the two. The variables are different. The dependent variables are absolutely different. Please make the two to be consistent. Significance of the study. Don't be sure of the importance of your study in relation to the stakeholders. And also improve on grammatical expressions. A lot of grammatical errors. So restructure your significance. The study may use the word may. And under the scope, the last sentence or the last two sentences are irrelevant under the scope. Take them to chapter 3. Take them to chapter 3. Limitations of the study. Improve on this. Use scientific terms. Don't use obvious expressions as far as limitations are concerned. The last limitation, you have stated that You can't generalize the findings. Why can't the study be generalized? That is my concern. To other parts of the country. Why? Yet human nature is the same. How did you know that causes of poor performance or achievement in Hamisi are not the same as in other countries? Have you conducted study in other countries in relation to the problem you are studying, such that you know the factors are not the same? You have also not indicated clearly how you managed the limitations. And by not doing so, a reader may assume that the limitations impeded your studies, blocked you from carrying out this study effectively. Assumptions need to be done. Whatever you have given are so obvious. Theoretical framework. Again, I mentioned it in the abstract. It's not clear. It's not clear about whoever furthered this theory which you have used to guide you in this study. Between Fitz Hilda and Bernard Weiner. Please tell us who championed this theory, and give us even the year when the theory came into being. You have to justify the relevance of attribution theory to your study. You need to give clear examples of attribution theory in relation to variables of your study in Hamisi, so that the reader can understand how this theory operates. You have not clearly given us examples of attribution theories. Justify why you picked this theory. Again, in this section, please, there are many grammatical errors that need to be corrected. The last sentence in this section does not resonate well with the title of the problem. See what you'll do about that. The last sentence is not fitting well in relation to the problem under study. Conceptual framework. You have used the language of proposal. Will. This is not a proposal. Again, correct grammatical errors in this section. I would wish that you explain how the variables in the conceptual framework interact or influence each other. What is the predictability of independent variable or sub-independent variables on dependent variable or sub-dependent variables? This is not coming out. And how does intervening variable or sub-intervening variables affect the operations of independent variable? This should come out. And there's no need for of citations in this section and bringing up Likert scale and how the social situation items will be picked. All these should be taken to chapter 3, Likert scale and how the items will be picked. They don't fit under conceptual framework.
The product, customer need.
The product, what is the tuition fee?
Correct.
Chapter 2,
Is the training.
again,
Big production.
as I mentioned under background of the problem, you need to give it global, regional to local perspectives approach.
Profits.
You need to add your voice
The revenue you get from the money traders.
in relation to what others have done. Don't just cite studies that have been done.
Umerudisha corona, my friend.
Your voice is lacking.
Why are you taking us back to
It's
Canaan?
also not clear which gaps you identify.
And we are in Egypt.
In chapter 2, and how these gaps were filled. So you need to identify the gaps and indicate how they were filled.
Customer need is piglets for rearing at home. Rearing at home.
Chapter 3,
For farming. Revenue from
I'm telling you, this is very compatible with specs.
chapter 3, the research design. The chairman mentioned about mixed research design. I was also wondering, by using the term mixed research design, it doesn't give much. And from the variables of your study, I felt that descriptive research design would have been more appropriate. Why mixed method? Why not exploratory research design? This would make you to clarify the exact nature of the problem in AMISI. Definitely, quantitative and qualitative approaches will come in. So think about the research design. Concerned about the population of study, you give comprehensive description of the population of the study. That needs to be done.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all here in peak.
It's also not very clear how each category of each respondent was picked during sampling procedures. And you need to justify why you used specific sampling technique to pick on the respondents.
As we go forward in the project review, to see how to implement it the best way possible. I've seen many business plans developed and then put in a shelf and nobody uses them. So we want to avoid that, right?
The candidate needs to tell us what she did with the data collected from pilot study.
Because there's a GIZ rule.
What did you do, or how did you use the data from pilot study?
In recent weeks, there's been 4 GIZ experts.
There's confusion in relation to sampling. is target population and sample size table, and I think the second table, the second target, the first table is target population and sample size, and this table 3.2 sample size framework. The contents of the same are overlapping. You can use one table to comprehend the data in the two tables. You don't need to use those two. They express more or less the same thing. Then data analysis. You said you use simple. I don't understand how you use simple linear regression. You need to explain how you use this and for why. Also, you mentioned that you use ANOVA. Tell us how you use ANOVA and why in relation to studying the mean difference of the groups involved in this study.
Going on in town, so we obviously are becoming here now. But I think we're in good hands with Lenny and Chris and Samuel.
Why not chi-square?
I'm sure things will go well. Okay, have a wonderful training. Thanks.
Shayne, I would like you to answer this. How did you test students' gender variance on their teachers? What I mean is that how did you test students' gender stereotype, perception, for example, of girls students on male teachers, and vice versa, that is,
that's what goes
male
here.
students,
Okay, so the focus
gender
here is
stereotype,
perception.
perception,
Here. Then after that, for each product, you have to think about
on female
customer
teachers.
need and the value proposition. And you
How
do
did you
remember
test
what
that?
we said about the customer need, right? The customer need, we are talking about what is the problem or need that you're solving for your
Because this
customer.
may create
And remember we gave the example of
difference in perception based on gender difference.
Which example did we give?
Ethical.
The need that you're solving for your customer. Because there's a customer
I ought to
segment
have done this
and there's a
earlier.
value proposition.
There are ethical
But the value
considerations
proposition is based on the need you're solving
to
for
be
your
enriched.
customer.
I've checked
And then you say
your appendices.
customers
I've
may
not
desire
seen
the thing that you're thinking of. Remember we talked about the
permits
government.
from
Why is the
UST,
government sponsoring students?
from NACOSTI.
They may want some
They need to
election,
be
or they might want to have
attached
a better legacy
under appendices.
for themselves. If they're the last time, they're looking for X. If they're the first time,
Chairman,
they're looking for re-election. If they are a governor
the researcher should avoid
to collect
usage
new votes.
of
So what
the
would be our
term
value proposition for such a person?
we.
What will be telling them?
Instead should use the
We are the
researcher
best college.
did this
We
and
can
that.
mobilize very many young people. We can offer them
The chairman, I
short
think,
courses, and we can celebrate you as the person who
the
has
candidate
sponsored
should
the short courses.
tell us
So what is the most important part of that value
What
proposition?
exactly two
We
new
will publicly celebrate and acknowledge you for sponsoring 50 students to take our
knowledge
short course. Does it matter which short course?
or major findings in relation to
Doesn't.
her study
Yeah. The only thing
that
that
she has
matters
come up
is
with.
the celebration in front of the
What
public. So the value proposition becomes
new knowledge,
activate, we
two major
celebrate
new
and honor
knowledge that
you
she has come up with
for sponsoring 50
in relation to her study.
students to take our short
I'll
course.
rest my case, Chair.
So that's why it's very important to understand what the customer need is.
Hello?
Thank you very much, Prof, for
Okay.
that
So this is now what we are doing.
report
Customer need,
on the
and
candidates.
then
So, Shayne,
a value proposition towards that customer.
there are several areas that have been
Product we know. That's what we discussed yesterday. Remember
uh,
yesterday we went and said what are we going to
raised by
focus on?
Prof. There
Those
is
are
something on
our
the title. You
products.
need to clarify which is the title. And then there was something on the statement of the problem. What is the local situation in Hamisi? And then the inconsistencies, the objectives. So you can
Okay,
respond
so
to some
I'm
of
going to
them.
add one
Karibu, Shayne.
column because
Okay,
then
thank
make
you.
the work easier.
About the title, the one which is relevant is students' perception of teachers' classroom effectiveness on their on students' academic achievement and self-concept in Hamisi sub-county. Under the
Yes, there was the question on the statement of the problem. What is the situation in Hamisi in relation to
Okay,
your
so
study, in your topic?
this you can
the
easily
situation in
see.
Amis, they when
Yes, localize the problem. Localize the problem. Yes.
according to the KCC results, they posted a low mean score, which was a D. And also the population is high when you compare to other sub-counties in Viga sub-county. So I wanted to find out the challenges which affect that low performance.
So your quest to carry out research in Hamisi was because the population is high and they got a
And
D.
they have a low, they get a low performance. So I wanted to find out the challenges. If this teacher classroom effectiveness is one of the challenges which bring out that poor performance.
Chair, in that case, she needed to also reveal what happens in neighboring sub-counties. How do we know that they score low? Did you bother to compare the performance in Hamisi sub-country with other sub-counties neighboring it? You
So
have facts, you have statistics.
at the moment I don't have, but I will include on those.
Okay. There was also a question on theoretical framework, but that one I think you'd include it you'll include it in the write-up. But there was a question on the conceptual framework where it did not come out clearly how the independent variable and the dependent variable interact or influence each. The dependent is influenced by the dependent, and how the yes, Prof.
Yeah. Don't answer for her. In relation to attribution theory, I said she should give us relevant examples in relation to what's happening in Hamisi or in relation to her study, so that a reader can understand this theory well. We have situational attribution and we have personal attribution. They don't come out. Okay, maybe you have not reached the.
Who is the customer?
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe you can comment on that, Shayne. That is the theoretical framework what Prof is talking about. So can you comment on that, please?
On the attribution theory, I used this theory because I wanted to find out what the learners attribute their success or failures. Is it on their own behavior or others' behavior that comes to the teacher's effectiveness? That is, if they attribute their theory, how they envision their teacher's effectiveness in their classroom.
So if a learner fails examination because
Yes.
the learning environment is not conducive, what
Yeah.
type of attribution is that? Do you attribute it to the teacher or to the student or to the school?
It will depend on how the learner attributes that.
If a learner doesn't grasp the content, then one fails. You attribute the failure to the student or to the teacher.
No, just
To the student. Now, the student
Then
will
what do you call that type of attribution?
person.
What is lacking? Yes. Is it situational or personal?
I think
do you
it
have
is
a problem
personal,
of rearing
but
pigs?
You are thinking.
You have a problem of rearing pigs?
not sure.
Okay. Continue.
Yes.
Those terms should come out in your theory. It's
Oh.
so general the way you have presented it.
Okay.
Did you consider faith when you came up with this project? Did you
Under the
consider
conceptual
faith?
framework, the independent variables are the student's perception and the teacher's classroom effectiveness. And the dependent variables are the student's classroom achievement, academic achievement and student self-concept. So they go hand in hand and they are intervened by the classroom environment, the teachers, and etc. That is on the conceptual framework.
Okay, you can move to the methodology.
So what?
Yeah, okay. Prof suggested that you could consider using, because just like I had raised, talking about mixed method is very general. So he had suggested a descriptive, but of course you look at it and consult with your supervisors and see whether it fits on your study. But there are some issues that he raised which you need to comment about. The study population, you need to tell us something about the study population vis-a-vis the categories of the respondents that you sampled. And how was the data collected from these categories? No, how was the data collected from the pilot used? How did you use the data from piloting? So you also need to comment on that. So you can begin by maybe telling us something about the sample and the categories that were used and then the pilot.
Okay. Under the study population, that is the target population, the study was done in Hamisi sub-county. It was done there because when I looked at the KCSE analysis, they posted a low mean score, which was a D, which and also when you look at their population compared to the other sub-counties, you find that this Hamisi sub-county the sub-county which posted low mean grade compared to the other counties, sub-counties. So I wanted to find out the challenges. If this teacher classroom effectiveness is one of the challenges that may bring out that poor performance. And on the sampling techniques, I used the purposive sampling, the stratified random sampling, and the simple random sampling. The purposive sampling, I used it on the Form 3 principal teacher. That is, if for example, in a school, you find there are 2 or more classes which are evident today. So I just take one of the class teacher who is the overall of the Form 3, which I administered the interview schedules to. And the stratified sampling, I used it based on the gender and the school category, if they are female or male, or if it is mixed or boarding, etc. And the simple random sampling, I used it to select schools from the sample size and the Form 3 students in each of the school that I visited. And this ensured equal representation of the population. Thank you.
Yeah, Prof, are you satisfied with that?
Not exactly, because she's not telling us how exactly she used these sampling techniques. Pick respondents in each category of the population she studied. She's just mentioning I use simple random sampling to select teachers.
Throughout this COVID period, I have never known to differentiate.
Okay, under the simple random sampling, I used the random number generators, where you create the random number and then you distribute it to the...
Why did purposive sampling?
Purposive sampling. The key informant. So I had to ask who the key informant in that school. That I used the principal class teachers. So in a situation where the teachers the class teachers are like 4 or 3, so I had to ask who represents all those teachers in those classes. So I just purposed to that, because that the person who will give me all the information concerning all those classes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that all that information needs to be captured in the document, and then you justify. For example, if you say purposive to select so and so, you must justify why you're using this. If it is instruments, I'm using questionnaire to collect information from this, why are you using questionnaire, and so on. There was one question on new knowledge. So what new knowledge is your research adding to the existing body of knowledge under this heading? The major finding, basically, 2 major findings, and Prof was very categorical. He said 2 major findings that you think are very significant.
So the first finding is that students' perception of their teachers' effectiveness positively communicates to their teachers in Hamisi sub-county. So it's
Why do you think so? Why do you say so? Why do you say so? Why do you say that it positively communicates with the teacher?
When you look at the data in chapter 4, they add up to the p-value. You find that the p-value is 0.05, the other is stronger to 2 point something. So it indicates that these variables they positively communicate to the teachers' classroom effectiveness.
Shayne. And another one?
And also, another finding, there are other major findings find that the male perform better than their female counterparts under the gender differences.
All right.
Chair.
Yes, Prof.
And that reminds me she has not
exactly
handled the concern I put across about the students' gender barriers on their teachers. Because we all know that members of opposite sex will always attract. That is, what I mean by that is that the female students will have positive perception on male teachers and vice versa in relation to their male counterparts, in relation to female teachers. How did she control this? Because this could have significantly influenced the outcome of this study. How did she control that? And how did she measure it? I asked that question.
So I used the independent sample t-test to measure this. And under the how I control this.
Okay, you discuss it with your supervisors, but it's an important element that should come out in this study.
Okay.
So, all right, Prof. Thank you very much. Thank you
I
very
hope I'm
much.
right, Chair.
Yes, Prof.
I hope I'm right. This particular element I've mentioned.
Yeah. It is actually making sense, and I can
about
see.
perception.
Yes. I can see even one of our supervisors is here, Dr. Gutu, and I'm sure he has heard, and Shayne is also here. They will consult and see how best to include it in the study. So I think I'm very grateful, Prof. If there's a report we can get, we'll also be very grateful. So Shayne, please have it typed, have those comments typed, and then you email them to me so that I can generate minutes. We had two other students to present. Thank you very much, Shayne. We had two other students to present. That was Humphrey, but I'm told that he's in charge of exams somewhere. I was told last night that he's in charge of